Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today to check out and take a first look at the brand new Ferrari 296 GTB. The final production model of the long-awaited hybrid V6 supercar in Ferrari's lineup has now landed. It's a car loaded with inspirations from Ferrari's of old, plenty to explore today in terms of the design, the aerodynamics, the performance figures, and understanding the technology that creates a total output of 830 horsepower. This is going to be quite something to reckon with, the new 296 GTB, and today we can take a first look. This is it then, the latest prancing horse to join Ferrari's stable, the 296 GTB. Now this car, as I said, has been long awaited. In fact, prior to even the launch of the F8 Tributo and F8 Spider, the rumour mill was rife with the imminent arrival of a hybrid V6 nicknamed the Dino, in some ways an entry-level supercar. But when you hear all of the technology and the performance figures behind the new 296 GTB, this is by no means entry-level. In fact, it is expanding the lineup. It sits alongside the existing mid-engine supercars, the V8 platform, for example, the F8 Tributo and the F8 Spider, and then the hybrid V8 in the SF90 Stradale and the SF90 Spider as well. Of course, in addition to the other models from Ferrari's lineup, the front-engine GT V8s, the Roma and the Portofino M, and also the V12s, the lovely 812 Superfast, 812 GTS, and the new 812 Competizione and Competizione A. But this is a car that boasts a lot of technology, some incredible features, and some amazing performance as well. Let's start though with a look at the design, take in some of the characteristics of the exterior, a car that features a number of different elements that link back to Ferraris of old, I would say. You can see hints of Dino, you can see hints of the 250 LM from the 1960s, you can see elements as well that have been incorporated from some of their special series models in a car that also in some ways resembles the SF90 Stradale, but with a new look to it, with a new design, particularly to the rear end. Now the name of the car itself, the 296 GTB, comes from the engine, which is a 2.992 litre V6, 2.9 V6, technically a 3 litre you could say, but the 296 carrying through, and GTB representing Gran Turismo Berlinetta. Now I imagine we might see a Spider in the future. For the time being, the Berlinetta, the coupe, is the model that has launched. A shorter car than the SF90, a little bit more nimble no doubt as a result, and even with the hybrid system, with a dry weight of 1,470 kilos, before even equipping also the optional Assetto Fiorano, the Fiorano pack, which brings even more lightweight components and more track-focused specific components, and an optional livery as well that we can explore in more detail shortly. If we start around the very front though, the headlights very much fit this new look for the eyes of a Ferrari that we've seen since the introduction of the Monza and the SF90. The nose itself feels in some ways to me like the F8 Tributo, not with the S-duct though for the airflow, but with different aerodynamic properties, and in fact some very interesting aero that Ferrari have incorporated into this. When I talked about some of the other special models that they've launched, if you notice on the A-pillars, those are painted gloss black, like we've seen on the J50, the 10 units for Japan, the special edition, the P80/C, the 458mm Speciale, and a number of other Ferraris, but the first time now on a series production car, Ferrari's second series production hybrid, their third hybrid model after the LaFerrari and the SF90 in either Stradale or Spider forms, but this being the first car that can drive itself fully electrically to the rear axle of Ferrari's hybrid models. Continuing the design, I feel like the shape of the curves, as I mentioned, are like the 250 LM from the 1960s, 1963, in fact 250 LM, with those curved arches, the haunches you can see particularly over the rear. But then when you come around to the back and look at the deck lid, and in particular the buttresses behind the cabin, this is where you get a lot of the Dino, the old 246 Dino, and I guess in the name as well, carrying a similar theme to it. But that shape, that flat deck lid, the glass window of course sitting behind the occupants, with that almost enclosed space that you have housing the glass window under which you'll be able to see through towards the engine. And then the tail itself, the back end, is very different. Yes, hints of SF90 Stradale, but there's an active rear spoiler sitting between the tail lights, which themselves are integrated neatly into the bodywork, and of course this new central exhaust tailpipe. And in fact some of the concept concept were running around with tailpipes that were more akin to those found on the Pista and the F8, twin pipes, well, one on each side of the centre. But now this is the new style, the new design, and looking forward, of course, to being able to see exactly how that pictures when you see it in person. From a sound perspective, though, some of the clips we're already able to see, it does come across very, very well, and perhaps in many ways more akin to the sound of a V8 than a V6, which is really quite impressive that Ferrari have managed to achieve that out of it. Now, when you get to the interior of the car, a very modern, very almost futuristic, you could say, interior in terms of the technology, and very heavily derived from the SF90 Stradale. You can see the full carbon touch control panel wheel, housing behind it the 16-inch curved dashboard display that I've come to experience a few times myself, flanked either side by more touch controls, so very much focused on the driver, with the central tunnel offering you the new selector for your gears using the 8-speed dual clutch transmission, whether it's launch control, manual, automatic or reverse that you would like, reminiscent in many ways of a traditional manual gearbox, a gated manual as found on the Ferraris of old. You have the optional display for the passenger side of the dashboard for some additional information as well, and a cabin finished with a lovely dual tone and new seat design as well, and this is before you get to the Assetto Fiorano, which gives you even more carbon fibre, and the carbon fibre bucket seats inside as well. Now, to talk a lot more about the engine, this is a big thing for Ferrari, launching their twin turbocharged hybrid V6. The 3-litre V6 itself, the combustion engine component, puts out 663 horsepower, combined then with a 7.45 kilowatt-hour battery connected to a single electric motor, all driving the rear wheels, giving you an additional 167 horsepower for a total of 830. Now, Ferrari have quite some history with V6s if you go back to the 50s and 60s, and of course since 2014 they've been racing in Formula 1 with the hybrid turbo V6s as well. But the upshot of that much power and the 740 newton meters of torque, going up to 8,500 RPM as well, by the way, quite a screaming red line, is that you get a 0 to 100 km/h time, 62 miles an hour, of just 2.9 seconds, and a 0 to 200 km/h time, that's 124 miles an hour, in just 7.3 seconds. Now, to give you some perspective, the AMG GT Black Series, which is the current Nürburgring record holder for a production road car, does that sprint in 8.8 seconds, 1.5 seconds slower, and the McLaren Artura, which competes in very much the same segment with the 3-litre turbocharged hybrid V6, takes 8.3 seconds, again a second behind. This is going to be a very quick Ferrari with a top speed in excess of 330 kilometers an hour, over 205 miles per hour as well. Now, like I said, it's a very clever and trick technology system that mates the combustion engine to the electric system all through the rear wheels with this 8-speed DCT, and as I said, you can drive it as well in full electric mode, the e-drive mode, for a maximum range of 25 kilometers, so 16 miles, enough to get back home or to head for a short run into town, that kind of thing, which can either be charged from the combustion engine or, of course, being a PHEV, a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle as well, should you wish to charge it up from the mains. Now, in terms of track times, the 296 GTB has set a lap at Fiorano, Ferrari's test track in Maranello, Italy, of 1 minute and 21 seconds. For some perspective, the SF90 Stradale is 1 minute and 19 seconds, the 812 Competizione 1 minute and 20 seconds. So we're talking a very quick, very capable car that is also very well equipped when it comes to the technology and the features inside as well. Now, to focus a little bit on the Assetto Fiorano, the Fiorano pack, as was introduced for the SF90 Stradale, it comes with a new look. You also, under the skin, get some Multimatic shock absorbers for a more track-focused driving experience. There are some additional carbon appendages to the front bumper, more carbon fibre as well found on on the interior, saving 12 kilos of weight before adding a few additional options beyond that. For example, a Lexan rear screen, which will save another 3 kilograms, a livery package in terms of the design, being able to opt and have some specific colors painted around the front and also to the rear to give it a more sporty presence, and also being able to choose to opt for the Cup 2R tyres to be even more track focused, albeit with very limited amounts of tyre tread, because they are really to set the ultimate in lap times. Now with the Assetto Fiorano, the car actually produces 360 kilos of downforce at 250 kilometers an hour, 155 miles per hour, significantly more than the standard car, a lot of which comes thanks to the new active rear Aero. Now Ferrari have always taken a very integrated aerodynamic approach, using in some cases active aero in the rear diffuser to help plant the car at higher speeds by lowering those, but in the case of this, it's more like we've seen, for example, on the LaFerrari, where there's an active spoiler that pops out and up from the back section of the car between the tail lights to help under braking, to stabilize the car a little bit more, and to act in different behaviors depending on the different driving modes that the driver has chosen and selected at that specific time. So active aero to help with the performance, changing between the different driving modes, which are similarly set up to the SF90 Stradale and Spider, for example with the eDrive, the hybrid modes, performance and qualifying. Qualifying of course being the out and out maximum performance, but at the expense of draining through the battery after a number of laps on track. Performance where it keeps the battery as charged up as possible but gives you the maximum attack. Hybrid, which will always put it into eDrive wherever it can, but balance and flip backwards and forwards between the two. And eDrive where it will stay electric until of course the battery has depleted and needs to be charged up as well. Now the interesting thing in comparison with the SF90 is that of course this is a single electric motor to the rear axle, mated between the engine and the gearbox with all the power to the back, where the SF90 Stradale has 3 electric motors, 2 of which are up front on the front axle, meaning you drive it electrically if you choose eDrive, front wheel drive, whereas this is the first ever rear-wheel drive electric Ferrari, you could say. New times and a new product in the lineup. Now like I said, the 296 GTB sits alongside the F8 Tributo and F8 Spider in the current lineup, but of course alongside the SF90 Stradale as well in Ferrari's expansion of their product portfolio. We saw the arrival of the Roma alongside the Portofino, which has recently been refreshed to the Portofino M, and of course we now have this expanding supercar mid-engine platform lineup as well, although of course with very significant differences between the various models, but a V6 returning back to a Ferrari alongside the V8s and the V12s, and looking towards this new technology. They have a multitude of different models available, attracting new customers into the brand, and from my experience, so many of the cars that Ferrari are currently offering fulfill every niche they attack in an incredible way. Top competitors in their markets, in their respective playing fields, and the cars always carry a different look as well. You can tell that this is a different model to some of the others. Yes, there are similarities in some ways to the SF90 Stradale, but there is also of course a new wheel design, new headlight design. They don't carry the same components across effectively on the exterior in terms of the design, and being a smaller and lighter car, it will of course offer quite a different driving experience as well, with plenty more visual cues and features that I've not yet been able to tell myself entirely, but I certainly hope to be able to see the new 296 GTB in person and potentially get the opportunity to jump behind the wheel to see what it's all about before too long. For now though, that was a first look at the latest prancing horse. Do let me know your thoughts down below and what you think about this new car. That's it for now though. Thank you for watching guys, as always, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!